Here's something most financial advice gets completely backwards. People spend their whole lives chasing wealth and never stop to ask why. I've sat across from clients with millions in the bank who are some of the most stressed, unhappy people I've ever met. And I've sat across from some people with far less who had something money can't manufacture. So today I want to share 7 things I've learned, not from textbooks, but from years of real conversations with real clients that most people never figure out until it's too late. By the end of this video, you'll have a completely different relationship with money, not just how to grow it, but how to think about it. Because when it comes to the mindset stuff, that's where most people get tripped up. I've also got a bonus tip at the end that I think is the most counterintuitive thing on the entire list, and honestly, the one that's backed by the most research. You'll want to stick around for that one. So let's get into it. Number 1, the point of wealth is to live on your terms. Let me start with something that sounds obvious, but really isn't. The point of having money isn't just to have more of it. That might sound strange coming from a financial advisor, but it's true. What I've noticed after working with hundreds of clients is that the people who are truly satisfied with their financial lives aren't the ones with the most. They're the ones who have figured out what they actually want their money to do for them. For some people, that means the freedom to be incredibly generous. For others, it's the flexibility to work less, to travel, or to spend more time with the kids while they're young. And I want to be clear, freedom doesn't mean doing absolutely nothing. I've actually seen people retire too early and struggle, because ultimately humans need purpose and we need to feel like what we're doing is meaningful and matters. What freedom really means is that whatever you're doing, whether it's working, volunteering, or building something, you're doing it by choice and not because you have no other option. That distinction changes everything. The second lesson is that pessimists sound smart, delusionists sound crazy, but optimists make money. Here's something I want you to pay attention to the next time you're scrolling the news. Notice the language that they're using. Markets are plunging, stocks are soaring. It's always dramatic, always urgent, and always a little bit scary. I often tell my clients, if you were to go to an elevator that says plunging or soaring, you'd probably want to take the stairs. Now that's not an accident. Our brains are wired to look out for threats, and media companies know it. Fear sells and doom gets clicks. The problem is most of these doomsday scenarios never come to fruition. There's a quote that I love from Ryan Holiday, roughly saying, when the wolves are actually counted, there are fewer of them. Mountains turned out to be molehills. But, and this is important, the antidote to pessimism is not delusion. I had a client a few years ago who had 4x his investment. I mean, genuinely impressive returns. And when I suggested it might be time to take some money off the table, he refused. He was convinced it was going to double once more, and that's when he would take his profits. The next time I saw him, it had gone to 0. That kind of thing happens more than people realize. You just don't hear about it that often because nobody is posting about their losses on Reddit. The sweet spot is taking on risk where you actually get compensated for it. Diversified, balanced investing based on your personal risk tolerance. There's a famous line from the Nobel laureate Harry Markowitz that said, "Diversification is the only free lunch in investing." Despite the noise, despite the headlines, that principle holds. And by the way, I'm still coming to that bonus tip. It completely reframes how I think about the whole point of building wealth in the first place, so make sure you keep watching. Number 3, let go of arbitrary goals. Quick question, have you ever set a financial goal that stressed you out more than it motivated you? Things like, I need to pay off my mortgage before I'm 40, or I have to own a house before 30. These goals come from somewhere, maybe a parent or a cultural expectation, but often they're not actually grounded in your reality. Goals are important, and I'm not suggesting that we should ditch them, but there's a ladder most of us fall into. You hit one goal and immediately your attention jumps to the next one, and then the next, and the next, and then the finish line just keeps on moving. You see this play out in the extreme end with billionaires who are caught in feuds, lawsuits, and constantly pushing for more. That's not freedom. That's a trap with a very expensive entrance fee. The question worth asking is, will achieving this goal actually change my day-to-day life in a meaningful way, or is it just adding pressure that doesn't really need to be there? If you're finding these useful, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm putting out videos like this on a regular basis. Now let's keep it going. Number 4, money doesn't buy happiness, but it does reduce stress. Money can't buy happiness. You've probably heard it 1,000 times by now. And honestly, it's true, but I also think it's incomplete. Barely getting by, living hand to mouth, relying on debt just to cover basic expenses is genuinely hard. Not just financially, it's physically and mentally exhausting in ways that compound over time. Getting out of that situation and reaching a place where your day-to-day expenses are covered and there's a little breathing room, that genuinely does improve your well-being. There was a well-known study from 2010 by Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton that found emotional well-being improved with income up to about $75,000 a year and plateaued after that. Now, because that study is about 15 years old, adjusting that figure for inflation today puts it around $110,000. Now, the study isn't perfect, but I think it captures something real. Past a certain threshold, more money stops solving emotional problems, and sometimes the fear of losing wealth becomes worse than never having it in the first place. Stick around for the bonus at the end, because there's actually one thing that research shows does reliably make wealthy people happier, and it's probably not what you'd expect. Number 5, sometimes the optimal choice isn't the right choice. Early in my career, I was obsessed with finding the mathematically optimal answer for every client. The best tax strategy, the best return, the best allocation. After thousands of appointments, I've actually changed my view on that. Personal finance is way more about the personal than the finance. I have clients who hold a more conservative portfolio than the math would suggest is ideal. We've had the conversation, we've challenged them, but ultimately their relationship with risk is what it is, and a strategy you can't stick to is worth nothing. I've seen strategies that make complete mathematical sense on paper, but cause real psychological damage to the people following them. The stress of holding a leveraged position in a volatile market or the anxiety of a portfolio that swings too hard is often too much to bear. A slightly less optimal strategy that you can actually commit to will almost always outperform the best strategy that you abandon at the first sign of turbulence. Number 6, generating and protecting wealth come with different rules. There's a mindset shift that happens as your net worth grows, and nobody really warns you about it. When you're in the accumulation phase, you've got one job: keep investing, stay the course, and let time work. Market fluctuations sting a little less when you know you have decades ahead of you. But once you've built something substantial, your mind starts scanning for risks that you never worried about before. I've experienced some of this myself over the last several years. The goalposts shift from growth to protection. You'll actually notice this in ultra-wealthy individuals too. Sometimes the most pessimistic voices in the room about global events are people who have the most to lose. That mentality shift is real and it's legitimate. At a certain point, preserving and passing on what you built becomes just as important as it was to grow it. The strategies you need change. The conversations you need to have change. That's usually when clients come to us for a more comprehensive plan. We've got one more point to go, and then we'll get to our bonus point. I promise it's worth it. It's the one habit I've noticed in my most genuinely content clients, and it defies almost every assumption people have about money. Number 7, buying things for status is a losing game. This one might be the most important for anyone who's grown up with social media. All day long, we're seeing the highlights of other people's lives, the cars, the trips, the houses, and it creates this quiet pressure to keep up. Here's what I've actually observed. There's almost a negative correlation between wealth and flashiness. The wealthiest clients I work with tend to be the most modest, and those that are driving the most expensive cars are often the ones with the least financial cushion. Now, I'm not saying that having nice things is bad. Having quality items, enjoying what you've earned, that's fine as long as you can genuinely afford it and you're doing it for yourself, not for Instagram. Something I've also noticed as well is that as net worth grows, people tend to buy less stuff, but better stuff. As the old saying goes, buy nice or buy twice. Okay, so the bonus thing I've learned is that the happiest clients give the most money away. I want to leave you with this. The clients I've worked with who seem to be the most genuinely satisfied with their lives, they give more money away than almost anyone else. Now, this isn't just anecdotal. There's research spanning over 130 countries showing that spending money on others is consistently linked to greater happiness across cultures, income levels, all of it. I think what giving does psychologically is it breaks the grip money can have on you. It creates a kind of abundance mindset, the belief that there's enough and you can be generous and still be okay. It's a hard thing to manufacture, and it's a luxury not everyone has, but it turns out that the act of giving away money is one of the most reliable ways to feel better about having it. So here's where we started. Most people are chasing wealth without knowing what they're chasing it for. The people who figure it out early, what they actually want, what's enough, how to use it, those are the ones who end up happy, not necessarily the richest. If this video made you think differently about money, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.